Anyone who knows anything about Star Citizen knows that its development and its funding and hell, pretty much everything about it isn't conventional. And whilst that has brought a lot of criticisms, many of them justified, it also brings with it almost limitless possibility. Not having a publisher holding the financial purse strings, demanding release and or financial ruin if their demands aren't met, frees the developer to make the game of labour of love. It also frees them to use the backers to help do that. So if you'd like a look at how CIG could use the community to help make more content for the game, this one's for you. Later in the vid, I'm going to be setting you a challenge. I'm going to challenge you to come up with your own way that the community can become more involved with Star Citizen. Let's just see how creative everyone can get. Stay tuned for the guidelines on how to complete that challenge a little later on. Way back when, in 2013, Chris Roberts and CIG hosted a competition called the Next Great Starship. 16 teams competed, concepting, modelling and refining their design. The brief was a gunship dropship hybrid with turrets and a missile rack and room for 6 Marines. Each week, the teams responded to a challenge and a team was eliminated until only one team remained. Their winning design was the Redeemer, which has now entered production as an asset within the game. It was an amazing way to engage with the game's growing community, and it kinda set the scene for where the game was headed. How many games out there, not even released, managed to have a sold out annual convention? I mean, alright, a lot of games just get released so they don't need one, but you get my point. And look, no matter how enthusiastic you are about the game, there's no denying they have an uphill struggle with the amount of content they'll need to turn out to make the game feel like a living, breathing universe. And maybe that's where we could step in. There's no shortage of enthusiasm for the game, and with a couple of neat tricks, this could be harnessed by CIG. By way of example, CIG could include a map editor style interface with Squadron 42 at launch, or maybe a little later as a post-launch update. It would include all of the buildings, scenery and furniture, in other words the assets, from Squadron 42 and that have already been released into Star Citizen's persistent universe. This would have massive potential for the developers. I mean, just think about ArcCorp for a second, the massive city planet that in reality only has a couple of landing zones fleshed out that we're able to kind of walk around and explore. All the devs would need to do to make ArcCorp a far more kind of engaging planet would be to describe the building size and where the entrance is and the purpose of what they want the building to do. With the software, backers would then go mental, spending hours lovingly crafting whatever it is CIG was asking for. To limit the palette available and keep the design language used, CIG could release an update as a mini patch to the game, which you then open and holds all of the schematics for the building, as well as only the props and assets that they're happy to be used as part of ArcCorp's kind of overall design language. And as for making sure there's quality submissions, CIG would be able to, say, limit the number of submissions that could come from each account. Say, for the sake of argument, start off with one every 2 weeks, and if that's too many, drop it down to one every month. If that's not enough, increase it to one submission a week. CIG would have access to this massive repertoire of stuff that used their own in-game engine, their own in-game assets. There's no legal issues around it. And they would effectively just go through an approval process and pick the ones that they're happy with that would then go on to the lighting engineers or to be tweaked by their own developers. Before we take a look at the next example, hit that like button if this is getting you interested in this sort of idea for Star Citizen. Another example could be looking at the problem of AI crew. I mean, trust me, what makes a crew feel like a crew is the personalities, the chatter back and forth, it's people's sense of humour and unique outlooks on stuff. Here too, we could help. Concierge level backers are already invited on occasion to visit CIG studios. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that CIG could actually expand this. With an audio booth separated from the main studio, backers could book to do a day at the studio recording voice lines for AI crew members. Just the day-to-day chatter, like as the AI is mining, or scanning, or repairing, or cleaning, or eating, or relaxing. I mean, you get the idea, right? By using a robust set of rules, CIG could even allow players to write their own voice lines, really incorporating the different experience and outlooks you'd expect from a spaceship crew. And whilst one of the group is recording voice lines, you could have a whole bunch of people that are a part of that group testing theatres of war, or doing focus group testing for CIG, or just being asked stuff like in surveys. The beauty of this idea is that by just recording chatter, just conversations back and forth, you wouldn't be seeing any more of the plot to Squadron 42 or the missions currently in development, so no one would be required to be under an NDA. I mean, hell, I think I would pay the travel and hotel costs to go up to the studio for a day, get a little bit of a chat from one of the developers about kind of non-specific stuff they're getting on with, and then have the chance to contribute to the game in that sort of a meaningful way. And I suppose if seeing something you've spent hours creating incorporated into the game isn't rewarding enough by itself, CIG could relatively easily implement a rewards program that operates on points, kinda like the referral program does now, although I wouldn't suggest that it ends in getting one of the massively powerful capital ships, or some other form of recognition like a plaque that could go in game, or something you could display in your captain's cabin, or something that would be added to the forums, something that marks you out as someone who has genuinely contributed more to the game than just your money. But first, a quick reality check. You know, after I have just gone and spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of CIG's money at each location, buying a sound engineer and a recording booth and an area for people to play games, or by asking for the development of an entirely new interface within their game, you know, there are obviously clear obstacles to these very specific ideas that I've come up with. And whilst I may or may not have missed the mark, that's entirely up for you guys to decide, the fact that remains that there is so much harnessable energy and enthusiasm within the Star Citizen community, it would really be a missed opportunity if CIG effectively relegated that to only the feedback forums. Long waits, like the one we're encountering waiting for this game to be released, feel a lot shorter if you're able to contribute more than just your cash. So how about you? What if CIG challenged you personally to come up with a way to get more involved with the game? How would you approach it? What would you suggest? Can you think off the top of your head of areas that backers could easily get involved in and contribute? And what areas of the game do you think are going to need an awful lot of work that maybe we can assist with? Whilst you're thinking about that, have a think about these kind of 3 general principles. First off, it can't rely on third-party software. Clearly, CIG are not going to go and all buy everyone a Maya license in order to contribute to the game. And if we're using third-party software to do stuff like that, well, you know, there's going to be some legal issues. Second, there should be a way for it to be built in to kind of cut down or completely cut out troll entries without there being any input from CIG. So, for example, to say to people, you can only make 1 entry per 2 weeks. Alright, people are still going to half-ass it and not do a lot and, you know, just kind of kick out entries because they can. But if you're serious, if you really, really want to get something entered into the game, you've got two weeks to do it. You might as well take as much of that time as you can in order to get approval from CIG, especially if there's some sort of rewards program tied to that. And thirdly, it should be something available to all backers. I know I mentioned Concierge earlier because I just wanted to establish that there is already the precedent of backers visiting CIG studios, but it shouldn't be limited. I don't think anything like this, nobody benefits from hiding this behind any other paywall than you own a game package. I'd be really interested to see with what people come up with. I think, you know, I've got one experience, and isn't this the whole point of community involvement? someone out there is going to have an idea that blows mine completely out of the water. See, naval pun. And just everyone goes, yeah, I would absolutely get involved with that. I would absolutely want to be a part of that. And that's the joy of community involvement. CIG have a huge amount of experience, of ideas, of ability in its backers. And it would be a real shame to let that go. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And if content like this gets you thinking, make sure you subscribe, because I've got a whole bunch more planned for you. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.